Thank you for joining our presentation on ERA's comprehensive energy savings stream. We're glad you could join us so that we can share this great opportunity with you. We hope that today's discussion can help you take full advantage of this program stream. My name is Heather Stevens, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Emissions Reduction Alberta, or ERA. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Luca Youngin and Brittany Tran, both program managers at ERA, and Myron Srikantha, who is part of the Enerva and Summerhill team, supporting ERA with the design and execution of the ESB portfolio of programs. Before we dive into our main topic, I'll provide a quick background on ERA and the programs under the Energy Savings for Business portfolio. Then we'll explore the comprehensive energy savings eligibility and the application process. We'll end the presentation with a Q&A. As a reminder, please feel free to send your questions through the platform's Q&A feature. We'll do our best to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. The recording of the webinar will also be available on our website within the next few days. And with that, let's get started. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions while supporting the economy benefits everyone. ERA's vision is anchored in the belief that our success is measured in both economic and environmental terms. Emissions Reduction Alberta has been investing in Alberta technologies and companies since 2009 to reduce emissions and grow Alberta's economy. Our investments help innovators develop and demonstrate GHG-reducing technologies that lower costs, improve competitiveness, and accelerate Alberta's transformation towards decarbonization. We have worked across many sectors and have broadened our traditional scope with the Energy Savings for Business portfolio. These programs accelerate the adoption of commercially available technologies that will help businesses cut costs and reduce emissions. These are extraordinary times, and the ESB program is one piece of the province's response to help businesses navigate the challenges they are facing. It's providing much needed economic stimulus, helping people get back to work, and demonstrating Alberta's continued commitment to being a leader in sustainable resource and energy use. Based on average program actuals to date, when $100 is invested in an ESB project, annual utility bill savings are approximately $20. When including available incentives, your project can pay for itself in under 5 years. We've developed the ESB program portfolio, building on the lessons learned from a variety of similar programs previously delivered in Alberta. As such, we know that support for small and medium-sized businesses needs to be streamlined and predictable in order to encourage participation. The programs offer a simplified application process, quicker turnaround times, a large menu of technologies, and clear, timely, comprehensive information about eligibility. The Energy Savings for Business program gives businesses fast access to incentives for cost-effective efficiency measures. It also helps eligible Alberta businesses reduce emissions, decrease operating costs, grow their operations, and become more competitive, while at the same time creating skilled jobs and boosting economic recovery. I will now pass it over to Luca, who will provide some additional details on the ESB portfolio of programs.
Thank you, Heather. Adaptive management has been key to the program. It has allowed us to pivot the design as needed to reach our desired outcomes. As a result, we raised the incentive limit for parent companies from $500,000 to $1 million and extended the completion deadline for the Energy Savings for Business program until September 30th, 2023. ESB targets small and medium-sized businesses. Generally, if you're a business, you are eligible. It supports proven technologies that reduce emissions, save energy, and cut costs. There's an extensive measures list with over 60 different types of energy efficient products such as HVAC, LED lighting, and combined heat and power. Applications for pre-approval will be accepted until June 30th, 2023. ESB program measures list is extensive, but Albertans are innovative and the efficiency world is evolving, driving new ideas and technologies. And so we launched ETP in late 2021. ETP offers a pathway for Alberta businesses to propose effective, commercially available technologies not currently supported through ESB that could offer high returns on investment and emission reductions. The application process is similar to ERA's traditional programming and requires the submission of an expression of interest and full project proposal. Both the EOI and FPP are evaluated based on a set of criteria. And given tier facilities are not eligible under ESB or ETP, we launched SPEED, which provides expanded scope for oil and gas producers under tier regulation or aggregate facilities. We added new measures for oil and gas producers, specifically air fuel ratio controllers, engine upgrades, new engine replacements, pump jack electrification, and pump off controllers. The SPEED application window is now closed. Our newest offering is the comprehensive energy savings stream, which requires the completion of at least 2 core measure categories to be eligible for an incentive. Projects can be eligible for a bundling bonus. As you are likely aware, we are now open to applications. For all streams under the ESB portfolio, you can qualify for up to $1 million per parent company. On the next few slides, I will go into some more details on ESB and ETP, and we will then jump into CES. All pre-approved ESB projects must be constructed and participants must submit their post-project applications by September 30th, 2023. Please carefully consider the time you'll need to finish your project, as we cannot grant extensions past the deadline. All projects receive a default completion deadline of 6 months. ERA will consider extension requests on a case-by-case basis for larger projects that may need more time to complete construction. We've received great interest in ESB since launching last year. To date, we've granted pre-approvals to over 1,600 projects worth over $36 million in incentives. We'll continue to update the tracker on our website, but please note that we have currently allocated 86% of our budget. If you have a project in mind, please consider submitting your application sooner rather than later to ensure you have access to funding. While our technologies list is extensive, we know that Albertans are innovative. That's why we expanded the program to consider cost-effective technologies that are not on ESB's eligible measures list or do not meet the current requirements. The Expanded Technologies Pilot is an extension of the ESB program and allows participants and contractors to request funding for innovative technologies and projects. ERA is eager to learn about what these technology systems can offer, how they can achieve emissions reduction and cost effectiveness, and how they can be applied to other facilities. ERA may also consider these technologies for future initiatives. Please note that monitoring alone is not eligible. The technology must be involved in actively saving energy. Sending alerts that adjustments must be made is not sufficient. If you know of a business with innovative energy savings ideas, please encourage them to submit an expression of interest. The EOI should detail their cost and energy saving technology that is not on ESB's eligible measures list or does not meet the current eligible measures requirements. Our team will then work with the business to determine whether the project is appropriate for funding based on a list of criteria. To learn more about ETP, please visit our website or get in touch with our project team. This slide provides a summary of the different timelines we have mentioned in the presentation. To summarize, we expect to keep the CS application window open until March 31st, 2023, but may adjust this date based on uptake. ESB will remain open to new applications until June 30th, 2023. Your last chance to submit an expression of interest in Expanded Technologies Pilot is May 1st, 2023. All ESB, SPEED, and ETP projects must complete and submit their post-project information by September 30th, 2023. Applicants to CS will have until March 31st, 2024 to complete and submit project information. And now to get into the main topic for today. I'm excited to provide some information on the new Comprehensive Energy Savings Program, or CES. The intent of the CES stream is to encourage facilities to retrofit or upgrade more than one measure and drive facilities towards net zero. As these building enhancements are often capital intensive, the financial incentive and bundling bonus from CES aims to alleviate the cost burden and help you complete your projects. By completing multiple upgrades in your building, you will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and decrease energy use, which in return will decrease operating costs, maintenance costs, and reduce your environmental footprint. Energy efficiency upgrades will increase the property value and occupancy rates, boost the building's efficiency, and increase the comfort of your employees or tenants. CES officially launched on January 4th, 2023, and we are now open to applications. The application period will be open until March 31st, 2023, or until a budget has been reserved for pre-approved applications. Applications will be reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis. Requirements for CES include that projects must be complete by March 31st, 2024. You can request up to $250,000 in incentives per project. Upgrades must be within the same facility. Solar has some different requirements than previously in ESB, including an attestation from the eligible contractor that the project can be completed in the program timelines and that the equipment is available in Canada. Additionally, a signed contract between the participant and contractor and a draft single line diagram. Within 2 months of pre-approval, you will need to provide a stamped single line diagram and proof of a non-refundable deposit paid to the contractor. New to CES is the bundling bonus, which means for your second, third, fourth, etc. project, a bundling bonus will be added to your project incentive. The bundling bonus is up to 25% of your incentive amount. There are 12 example calculations provided in the guidelines to help illustrate different scenarios, and we will also go into some examples later in the presentation. If you have participated in ESB previously, the application journey for CES will look very similar. Step 1, we encourage you to review the program documents prior to submitting your application to ensure your project is eligible. If you have any questions on eligibility or if you meet the requirements, please reach out to our contact center. The program guidebook, application guide, terms and conditions, and eligible measures list will be helpful during your submission. Next, register on the program portal. If you have already registered for ESB, you can use the same login information to access both your ESB and CES applications from the same portal. Once your application is complete, you can apply for pre-approval. Following receipt of a pre-approval notice from ERA, complete the installation of your project. Once your project completes, submit your application for post-approval. And the last and most exciting step is that you receive your incentive payment. I'll now hand it over to Myron, who will take you through what an application will look like in the program portal.
Thank you, Luca. The application portal for the CES program is the same as for the ESB program. The website for the application portal is www.esbprogram.ca. The registration process is the same as for ESB. If you have already registered for ESB, then your account will be active for CES and you will not have to re-register again. Once you do register, you can click Start a New Application on the homepage, and you'll have the choice of selecting either the ESB or the CES program. Like ESB, the CES pre-project application has 6 steps. You can see the 6 steps in the circles at the top of the screen under Start an Application. The first 2 steps, contractor selection and assignment and project details, have to be completed by the customer. If a contractor is assigned access, they can then complete step 3, which is the facility details, step 4, which is the measures, and step 5, the documents. Then a customer has to complete step 6, which is to review the entire application and submit. On this screen, you can see the first step, which is the contractor selection. Only contractors who have registered will be available in the dropdown. After you select a contractor, you can choose whether to give them access to the application. Step 2 is the project details. If you intend to submit multiple applications, we suggest that you name the project with something that differentiates it from other applications that you may submit. For example, on the screen, this project, we have written solar and lighting upgrades. Another important thing to note here is the amount of eligible expenses prior to application submission. We need this information to track expenses and complete the incentive calculations. In step 3, you can either add a new facility or select an existing facility. To add a new facility, you click Add Facility. Facilities that you've created from previous applications will be shown, and you can select them by clicking the circle in the Attached to Application column. In step 4, you enter in all the different measure details by clicking Add Measure. You can also edit measures that you have previously entered or remove them from the application. This is also the place where you can link previous ESB applications to your CES application. In step 4, once you have entered all the measures, you'll see each of the CES categories in the incentive bonus table, along with the category incentive, an indication for whether the category is eligible for a bonus, and what the bonus is. Please note that if your application is not meeting the minimum requirements, the Save and Proceed button at the bottom right will be grayed out. The I in the top right column of the category incentive will provide more information if there is an issue. Step 5 is where you submit documents. Based on the type of measure, there are different requirements. For all applications, this is where you'll upload the cost quote. For certain applications, such as the ones that include solar PV, you will need to upload additional documents here. These document requirements can be found in the guidebook as well as the individual measure checklists. Finally, step 6 is the application summary. It is where you can review your entire application, and if you're happy with it, you can complete the checkboxes and submit. Please note that at any point in the application before submission, you can always save and then navigate between steps or exit the application itself. I will now pass it over to Brittany, who will walk through some incentive calculation examples.
All right. Let's go over a couple of incentive example calculations that will help lead us into the scenario examples. Let's say you had a solar PV project that was a 100 kilowatt system. If you go to our measures list and reference it to determine what incentives are available, you'll find that the incentive is 50 cents per DC watt for a system between 15 kilowatt to 2 megawatts. Solar is capped at 25% of the total eligible expenses. Since this project has $250,000 in total project costs, it would mean the project would be capped at $62,500. When you take the 0.5 cents incentive per watt multiplied by the 100,000 watt system, the total incentive would be $50,000. This means that it is capped at the measure level and not the project level. Now let's say you have a lighting project. On the measures list, you find it's $70 per fixture for an LED bay fixture. You multiply that by your 145 fixtures that you plan on installing and get a total of $10,000 in incentives. Lighting is also capped at 25% of the total eligible expenses. This project is $90,000. So that means that this project is less than that and is again capped at the measure level. Both of these projects would be under the $250,000 per project cap and would receive $50,000 and $10,000 in incentives. So now let's take these into the scenario examples. Let's say Yumi already participated in the ESB program and installed a solar PV system. Now she wants to install LED bay fixtures in the same office building. She goes to check the requirements to see if she meets them to participate in the program. Since solar and lighting are both in two different core categories, it meets that requirement. After she completed her incentive calculation, she sees that she also meets the minimum incentive amount per category. Solar has a minimum of $5,000 and her incentive was $50,000, so she was over that minimum. Lighting is $2,500 and her project was $10,000 in incentives, so she also meets that minimum requirement. Since she'll be installing the lighting in the same facility the solar was installed at, she meets that requirement. Please note, if you do want to complete one of your projects in an adjacent facility, we may consider exceptions on a case-by-case basis, so please reach out to us so we can talk more about your specific project. Now Yumi is ready to submit her application for pre-approval. When she submits her application, she sees her bundling bonus calculated in the program portal. Since solar was complete in ESB, it is not eligible for a bonus in CES. The bonus will be on the lighting project, which is 25% of the lighting incentive. So taking the $10,150 incentive multiplied by 25% comes to an extra bonus of $2,537. The bonus is then added to the solar and lighting incentives, bringing her total funding for her pre-approved project to $62,000. Let's change it up and say Yumi completed the lighting through ESB first and now wants to add solar through CES. Solar is not eligible for a bonus in CES, and since lighting was complete in ESB, it is also not eligible for a bonus. She would still be able to submit her solar through CES though. So the total funding would be her solar incentive plus the previous lighting incentive for a total of $60,000 in incentives. Let's go into another example where a project would not be eligible. Let's say Yusuf heard about the program through Yumi and now wants to install solar PV and lighting in his manufacturing facility through CES. To check to see if the program meets the requirements, we see that the measures are from different categories, one from on-site generation and renewables and one from lighting. All the measures will be installed in the same facility. However, the minimum incentive threshold for lighting is not met. Here, his project has $2,000 in incentives, but the minimum is $2,500. As such, the project would not be eligible through CES. There are 3 different options for Yusuf. To participate in CES, he could either look for some more lighting to add before submitting the project for pre-approval to meet the minimum $2,500 requirement, or he could add a different measure category that meets the minimum requirement. If he doesn't want to do that, he can still submit the lighting project through ESB and receive his $2,000 incentive. Let's say Yusuf didn't want to add more lighting to the project, but he did find a new project to add, a compressed air project he could do in the same facility. He adds this to the application, and now his project is eligible since it meets the requirement of 2 or more measure categories that meet the minimum incentive amount. With that, all the measures will be installed in the same facility. The measures are from different categories and meet the minimum for the solar and compressed air. So Yusuf can now submit the project for pre-approval. Since Yusuf has 2 measure categories that meet the minimum requirements, the first is solar, the second would be compressed air, so he would receive the bonus for the compressed air measure. Since lighting did not meet the requirement, there would not be a bonus on the lighting portion. However, he would still be able to install the lighting and receive the incentive for the lighting, just not the additional bonus. So to calculate his total incentive, you would add the solar, lighting, and compressed air incentives, plus the compressed air bundling bonus, which would bring his total incentive to $64,800. Now let's say Yusuf does decide to add more lighting to hit the minimum incentive amount so that he can get a bonus for lighting as well. Since he has 3 categories that meet the requirements, he can receive the bonus on both the lighting and compressed air measures. This would bring his total incentive to over $66,000. Well, we know this can be confusing, and we only had a short amount of time today to go over a couple of examples. So to help businesses understand their eligibility or go over any questions that they have when submitting their project application, ERA offers an application assist to help everyone in the program. This service makes applying easier than ever. Application Assist has helped contractors and participants submit projects, which is also especially helpful during the first application and can make every future application smoother to submit. To learn more about ESB, ETP, CES, and Application Assist, please visit our website at eralberta.ca/ESB. I'll now pass it back to Luca to start our Q&A.
Thank you, Brittany. Okay, if you've made it this far, now is your opportunity to ask any questions of the program panel. Heather, Brittany, Myron, and I will answer your questions. If you haven't done so already, please type your question into the questions section of the control panel, which is typically on the right-hand side of your screen. At this time, I would like to introduce my colleague, Portia Baladad, Marketing and Social Media Manager, who will moderate the question period, and Allison Trenton, Marketing and Social Media Associate, who is behind the magic curtain of this webinar collecting the questions. Portia, what questions do we have so far?
Thanks, Luca, and thank you to everyone who has submitted questions so far. We have a lot of great questions, and we likely won't have time to get to all of them today. So if we don't get to your question, please submit them to support@esbprogram.ca, and we'll be happy to respond to you one-on-one. Hey, questions are coming in fast and furious right now, so let's go with the first question is, what is the main difference between ESB and CES? Luca, can you take on this? Can you provide an answer for this one?
Yeah, definitely. So the main difference between ESB and CES is that CES requires you to complete at least 2 installations from the 8 core categories that we have listed in the guidelines and the measures list. So what this means is that if you have a very simple project, for example, if you just want to do a lighting installation, you don't have additional projects in your facility, your best bet is to go through ESB. If you do have multiple projects in mind and you're looking to achieve greater savings, we recommend going through CS because then you can take advantage of the bundling bonus, which is not available in ESB. I guess one other thing I should note is the timelines. So if you have a project you think that will be completing after September 30th, 2023, again, it's best to go through CES because the program timelines are slightly longer for CES, so you have until March 31st of 2024 to complete your CES project.
Thanks, Luca. Our next question is, how will this program help me reduce my operating costs? Heather?
Thanks, Portia. So what we did is we based this on our data from projects that we've had in our ESB program to date. And what we found is that investing $100 into an ESB project, you can expect to realize annual utility bill savings of approximately $20. So when you consider the incentives that are being applied to this alongside the participant investment, it actually can reduce the payback period to under 5 years to the applicant. So it's real savings each year on the period, and the useful life of the measures are well beyond that. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Heather. Brittany, I was hoping if you can answer this next question. It is, if you already have a project you put through ESB, can you have your second, third, or fourth project submitted through CES?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. You can definitely submit your third, fourth, and so on projects through CES. If you submitted a project already through ESB, it wouldn't be able to retroactively get a bundling bonus on it, but you would be able to still participate through CES. And the program portal is actually pretty nifty, and it'll automatically know if you're clicking on the same facility location, it'll automatically join your ESB applications to it. And so you can select those and add it so that it knows that there is more than one measure.
Perfect. Thanks, Brittany. And just a quick follow-up, does participation in CES require a previous project in ESB?
Another good question. No, it doesn't. You can participate in CES alone without participating in ESB. You would just need those two projects from different measure categories.
Awesome. Thanks, Brittany. Our next question is, if a document is missing in the pre-approved steps, is there a chance to resend the document? Myron, can you take this question, please?
Yeah, that's a great question, Portia. So it depends really where the application is. So if in the pre-approval, it's noticed that the document is missing, and the applicant tells us that they'll only have it ready at the post-project stage, then what we can do is we can issue a conditional pre-approval. If the applicant tells us that the document will be available soon, just not right now, then what we could do is have the application in an information request status. And then when the document is available, they can submit it, and then we can do the pre-approval. So it really just depends on the communication with the applicant and when the document will be available.
Thanks, Myron. Luca, I have a question for you. For CES bundled measures, can multiple contractors gain access to the application process? For example, a solar PV installer and lighting installer.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so generally speaking, we try to have just one contractor have access on the portal to the application, and that needs to be provided by the participant. So the participant has to be in agreement with giving the contractor access. However, if you do have multiple contractors working on a project, one option is to get one of the contractors to be the main contact. And then they can work on entering that project information to help the participant. But if you do have any issues with entering project information into the portal related to multiple installations, please reach out to our application assist team, and they'll be happy to set up a call and assist you with uploading information and moving the application forward.
All right, thanks, Luca. Brittany, I was hoping if you can answer this next question. I have project applications that are currently in ESB. How do I decide if they should continue there or be part of a future CES application?
Yeah, thanks. That might be a little bit situational and kind of just depend on what's going on with your projects and your facilities. If it's within the same facility, I think it would be a better bet to go through CES. You'll just want to check that you meet the minimum requirements. So that's the minimum incentive amounts that we were going over. Like for example, if you're completing a solar or CHP project, that would have to meet the minimum of 5,000. And then each other measure category we have has a minimum amount. So if you do meet those, I would recommend going through CES, because then you get to access the bundling bonus, which is the extra 25% on top of your incentive amount already. So it'll just get you a little bit more kind of bang for your buck there. So definitely reach out to us if you do have current applications in ESB, and we can help with what the best kind of move for you is there.
Perfect. Thanks, Brittany. I'm seeing a lot of questions asking if they can receive a copy of this presentation. We will be uploading a recording of this presentation onto the website. ERA, it's on our resources page, so you'll be able to see it shortly, soon after this presentation. Okay, perfect. Right, Myron, I have a question for you. Can this program be applied to new projects under construction, or is it strictly for older buildings?
It's a portion of the great question. It does apply to both eligible existing buildings and new construction. So for CES, like ESB, certain measures are eligible for new construction, while others are not. The measures list posted on the CES website indicates which measures are eligible for new construction. This includes solar PV, geothermal, CHP, all motors and drives measures, including VFDs, all lighting controls measures, all agricultural lighting measures, all food service equipment with the exception of demand control kitchen ventilation, all compressed air measures, gas heat pumps, as well as solar preheating of air intake and waste energy recovery using the organic Rankine cycle.
Perfect, thanks, Myron. Luca, I have a question for you. Would not-for-profit businesses qualify? In addition, if you can also, I think there are some questions that are related to this about the funding eligibility.
Yeah, so I guess to start, nonprofits are generally eligible to participate in CS. One thing we'll just need to confirm is whether you receive more than 50% of your funding from a public authority. So what we're just trying to do there is to ensure that our program dollars are going to projects that aren't necessarily receiving additional funding from an outside source, such as the government. That said, we understand over the past few years, it's been challenging due to COVID, and in some circumstances, people will receive a grant, for example, from the government, and they might just happen to go over that 50% amount for a short period of time, maybe a year or something like that. So I would just recommend that if you are close to that 50%, that you just reach out to us, and we could definitely evaluate that on a case-by-case basis. And we've been flexible to a degree in the past to work with participants in that regard.
Perfect, thanks, Luca. Let's see. I have another question here for Brittany. Brittany, can this program be stacked with other programs and incentives, including offset programs or federal and municipal incentive programs?
Yeah, good question. This can be stacked with other programs. There are a few that won't be able to be stacked. It would be probably just easiest if you reach out to us, and then we can look and make sure that they are eligible for both. But we're definitely open to that, so just let us know.
Great, perfect. And just to recap very quickly, if you have additional questions, you can contact our contact center team via email, by phone, or by chat through the ERA website or the application website. So any clarification questions, especially ones about stacking, any specific questions about your project, they will be more than happy to help you with that. Right, the next question is, my contractor is not on the list. How do I add them? Applying for ESB is very, very simple. You can go onto the website esbprogram.ca to submit your application there. I'm seeing a lot of questions also about if the contractor has to be part of the program, and yes, they do need to be part of the program for your project to be eligible. And signing up is very, very quick and simple. I have another question here. ESB was small to medium businesses. Is a CES applicable to all businesses, or is it limited to small and medium businesses only? Luca, can you take that question?
Yeah, thanks, Portia. Yeah, I know we've received that question previously. So ESB was designed to support small and medium-sized businesses, especially those impacted, during the pandemic. That said, we never had a requirement in our program, for example, saying that if you had over 500 employees that you would not be eligible. But the reason we include that is to ensure that we're providing support to, like I said, some of those smaller businesses perhaps that were impacted over the past couple of years due to the pandemic. And I think our measures list and our incentive caps, for example, really apply to those smaller and medium-sized businesses. So if there's a large company doing a very large, for example, solar installation, given that we have caps on the solar PV incentive, it's probably not going to result in a go, no-go decision based on the incentive funding we provide. So we thought, we'd rather see the dollars go to some of these smaller and medium-sized businesses where it does actually, make the go, no-go decision. So hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. Thanks, Luca. Myron, I have a question here for you. Is there any limitation on how many applications you can send?
You can submit as many applications as you want. Within ESB and for CES, there is a $1 million cap for total funding for a company. So that could be one $1 million application, or it could be 4 250,000 applications, or it could be 10 $100,000 applications, or however many applications is possible. That just get you up to the $1 million.
Right. Perfect. Thanks, Myron. I also have another question for you, Myron. Do we need a third-party auditor to validate our submissions?
For ESB and CES, no, you do not need a third-party auditor. You just need to follow the pre-project and post-project application process. We went through the pre-project application process today, so there is no need for a third-party auditor.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Myron. Brittany, I have a question for you. Can your own staff undertake certain tasks, for example, lighting fixture replacement, and include fixture cost only?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. The costs of the installation itself, or like the labor, wouldn't be an eligible expense, but you would still be able to submit the fixture cost as your eligible expense and go through the program.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Brittany. Luca, I'm seeing a lot of questions about projects, doing projects across multiple facilities. Can you just quickly go over the eligibility for the CES program and how that works? Oh, sorry,
Definitely.
in regards to multiple locations as well.
Right. Yeah, so as part of our program design, we did do some stakeholder engagement. And the initial program design, and it's still, like I said, program design, but the intent of it is to achieve deeper savings within a facility. So I guess what we're trying to avoid is someone having multiple different facilities and just doing, a project within each of those facilities, because it's not really, I guess, achieving the intent of the program, which is to help, get these facilities closer to net zero. That said, based on our stakeholder engagement, we do understand that in some circumstances, there could be adjacent facilities. So there could be a facility very close by. It really depends on the circumstance. For example, there could be an agricultural facility that has, multiple meters that are in close proximity. So I think in a situation like that, we'd be flexible and we definitely work with the participant to figure something out. But generally speaking, we're looking to have the installations completed in the same facility.
Perfect. Thanks, Luca. I also have another question for you. I'm seeing a lot of questions asking about available funds. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, so we do have a FAQ page on the CES website, and that's a question that's been coming up, so that's why we added an answer there. But to summarize, it's approximately between $5 to $8 million of funding that is available for CES. But I should note that given we have now 4 programs under the Energy Savings for Business portfolio in market, it really depends on the uptake for the other program streams, because it's all coming out of the $55 million budget, which was announced back in November of 2020. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you do have an application that you're thinking about submitting, it's on a first come, first served basis. So we definitely encourage you to submit it sooner rather than later. But at this time, we do think the budget will be somewhere around, like I said, $5 to $8 million.
Perfect. Thanks, Luca. Myron, I have a question for you. Does our ESB grant, we already received our ESB grant, does it count towards the company total? I believe they're talking about the total incentive amount.
Yes, all applications within ESB and CES all count towards $1 million company total.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks, Myron. And then just another quick question, just to clarify, do registered ESB contractors need to register again to CES?
No, if you've already registered in ESB, then you're automatically registered into CES. It's the same application portal. Again, www.esbprogram.ca is where you can go to register and submit applications.
And then can you also just quickly walk through the steps on what companies can do if they are using in-house, if they're using in-house resources to carry out the projects?
Okay, so there's 2 nuances to this. So one is if you have a contractor and you're only doing part of the work yourself, then you could select that contractor, and then for any parts of the work you do yourself, then you can't add labor costs on your application. But if you are doing all of the work yourself, then you have to then create a separate contractor account for your company, and then select that account when you're in your step 2 of your application. That requires a bit more work, so if you would like to email us if you are planning to do that, then we can help you with that through our application assist service.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Myron. Okay. Oh, I have a question here for Brittany. So the question is, for CES bundled measures, can you bundle measures between the building owner and the tenants? For example, solar PV is paid for by the owner, but lighting or refrigeration might be part of the tenant's scope.
Yeah, you could definitely do that as long as it's within the same facility. It'll work. And if you're the building owner completing a project, you can be kind of the lead applicant on that one. And then we would recommend that you would still probably be the lead applicant, but you can always check in with us on that specific situation, and our application assist team can help you with kind of the best way to go about submitting that application. But you would definitely be able to participate in CES for that.
Right, thanks, Brittany. Luca, I have a quick question for you. So this applicant has a project that just started. What is the cutoff for eligible expenses?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So we have the cutoff date for CES applications. The date for eligible expenses is December 1st, 2020. So that means if you have, perhaps paid a deposit before that date, that would not be considered in your eligible expenses. However, if it's after December 1st, 2022, then yes, it would be eligible. For ESB, I know that's maybe not related to the question, but I'll maybe just mention it very quickly as well. We do have eligible expenses cutoff dates for ESB as well, just given that we were in market earlier than obviously CES. So that would be November 1st, 2020 would be the cutoff for eligible expenses for those types of projects in ESB.
All right, thanks, Luca. All right, the next question is, can I complete multiple solar PV projects in CES? Brittany, can you take this question?
Yeah, you can complete multiple solar projects, whether they're in the same facility or not, but if they're not in the same facility, you would just have to have that second measure category added. I think I also saw a question on whether you should submit your projects right away or wait for your line diagram. So we will need the draft line diagram at the pre-approval submission, and then 2 months afterwards, you'll need the signed copy or stamped copy. So we would recommend, as Luca was saying earlier, that it is first come, first serve. So if you do have some projects in mind and you have the documents ready to go, we'd recommend submitting them sooner rather than later.
Right, thanks, Brittany. And just to follow up, actually, sorry. Can you also take on this question? What is the definition for the same facility in CES? Which requirements will apply? Same commercial electrical service, same land title, same operating business with adjacent properties?
I would say reach out to us on that one. As we said in the presentation, if you do have any adjacent facilities, we're open to kind of discussing those on a case-by-case basis. We know everyone's situation and scenario are a little bit different. So you can definitely reach out and we can help you with that to determine your eligibility.
Great, perfect, thank you. Myron, I have a question here for you. Do funding recipients maintain ownership in the environmental attributes generated by solar PV?
Wait, Portia, can you repeat that? I just want to make sure I get that.
Do funding recipients maintain ownership of the environmental attributes generated by solar PV? I assume this is when they get, after they do all the applications for the CES.
So that's a great question. As per the terms and conditions, the attributes are transferred over to the ERA, where I believe those are retired. But Luca, do you want to add something there?
That's correct, Myron. And if anyone wants to go into a bit more detail, as Myron mentioned, we do have a section 11 in the terms and conditions on environmental attributes. And we also have an FAQ on our website that answers that. But yeah, to reiterate what Myron said, ERA retires those environmental attributes.
Thanks, Luca and Myron. Brittany, I have a quick question here for you. I have a project in mind, but don't think I can complete and submit post-project documents by March 31st, 2024. Should I still submit an application?
Sorry, was that to complete the project or submit the documents?
Both complete and submit.
Yeah, unfortunately, as of right now, the program is only open to applications until March 31st, 2023. So definitely try and make sure that you get your applications in before then. But it is first come, first serve. And so if the funding does get allocated prior to then, we will have to close the applications earlier. So again, we would recommend getting your applications in as soon as you can. And then if your project can't complete by March 31st, 2024, unfortunately, we would not recommend that you apply for the program. All of the projects will have to be complete by then. So just make sure that you're allowing enough time. If your project does complete after March 31st, 2024, and you did submit your project, unfortunately, we won't be able to provide any incentive or funding for that. So definitely keep in touch if you're getting close to that deadline so that we are aware, but we would recommend that you make sure that it is within those timelines.
Perfect. Thanks, Brittany. Quick question. Sorry, for Myron, can you take on this question? It's asking if condominiums are applicable to CES.
Yes, so condominiums can apply to CES. We've had quite a few express interest, as well as apply to ESB as well. Just being aware that in-suite projects are not eligible, but any projects that cover the common area are. So for example, hallway lighting, building heating and building cooling systems would all be eligible. Building envelope projects would be eligible. It's just you can't apply for in-suite projects such as in-suite lighting projects or in-suite thermostats or anything like that.
Perfect, Myron. And then just kind of a related question. Do municipalities, rec centers, and et cetera qualify for this funding?
So that's a great question. It comes down to the terms and conditions and how they are listed. So if you go to section 4 of the terms and conditions, you have to be considered a business to apply, and typically your funding has to come from less than 50% of your funding has to come from public sector funding. So it all depends on how the recreational center is funded. We have had private recreational centers apply to our programs, but if they're municipally funded with more than 50% of their funding coming from government sources, then they wouldn't be able to apply.
All right, thanks, Myron. Luke, I have a question here for you. All my projects are going to be completed at different times. Will ERA pay the incentive once the respective installation is complete, or will I need to wait until all installations in the projects are complete before I receive payment?
Yeah, thank you for the question. In the guidelines, we've provided some examples. We have 12 examples, and a few of those actually cover this situation. So you can reference that after the presentation for a bit more detail. But to your point, we understand that, for example, if you apply, you get pre-approved in February of 2023, and your project isn't completing until March of 2024. That's a long time for you to wait to get incentive funding for your project, especially if there are some measures that are completing earlier. So for example, if you're doing a lighting project and a solar PV project, and the lighting project completes, within a month, there would be a reason for you to want to reach out and hopefully get some incentive funding before the solar PV project completes. So there's a few nuances there. I'll try to go over now, but again, please refer to the examples in the guidelines. But basically, you just need to make sure that you have completed at least 2 projects from different measure categories in order to get an incentive payment. So if you're doing, for example, 3 projects, but 2 of those have already completed, you would then be able to get an incentive for a component of that project. However, if you're only doing 2 projects and one of those complete, so you wouldn't actually be meeting the bundling requirement at that stage because not both projects have completed, then you wouldn't be able to reach out and request an incentive. So it's a little bit complicated to explain verbally here. So I do recommend taking a closer look at the guidelines, and if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out and we can address those.
Just to follow up and on the same note of having multiple projects on the go at the same time, I have a question here that is asking about contractors and access to applications. So the question is, my project has 2 contractors, each working on different measures. How do they both work on the application?
Yeah, so unfortunately, only one contractor can work on the application at one time. Either the customer can get the information from the contractor for data entry for the simpler measure, or the customer could get the first contractor to complete the information for the first measure. And then they could assign the second contractor to complete the information for the second measure. Please note that this would mean that the second contractor would be able to see the information from the first measure. So this includes information such as spec sheets, costs, incentives, etc. So that's up to your discretion. Our application assist service is available to help customers enter measure information via screen share as needed, as well as an alternative.
Yeah, and I can add to that, Luca. We are helping current customers with this issue right now with regards to, we have CS applications that have multiple measures. So the first measure has been added, and now we're helping the customer add the details for the second measure. All you'll need to provide us are, we'll need to have the spec sheets and some project details, as well as the cost documents, and then we can help you over a screen share.
Awesome, thanks, Myron. Myron, I have a question about the application process. If there's an existing ESB application that is linked to the CES application, are duplicate project documents required to be uploaded to the CES application?
So if you're linking an existing ESB application, those documents are already there. So you don't have to upload them again for the CES application. However, if there's anything new about the CES application, such as the new measures, then you will have to upload documents for those new measures. But stuff you've already uploaded for existing ESB applications that is now linked to the new CES application, then it should already be there. If there's a very specific question, then please email us and we can help you with that.
Perfect, thanks, Myron. Brittany, I'm seeing a few questions about incentive caps for CES. Can you quickly just recap that?
Yeah, so each category can get up to $250,000, not including the bonus. The maximum for a CES application is $1 million, limited to 50% of the total project costs. And then there are the measure and project level caps that would be available in the measures list. So that's where you can find those. And then we have the minimum amounts. So the categories all have different minimum amounts that are available on our website and in the guidelines. If you are participating through ESB, the minimum amount would be $500. And then there is $1 million total parent company cap. And so that $1 million is inclusive of all of our suite of programs under the ESB. So it would include if you have participated in the ESB already, if you've participated in the expanded technologies pilot, if you've participated in our SPEED program, and including CES as well.
Right. Perfect, thanks, Brittany. I think we have time for just one more question. We're right down to the wire. So Luca, I have a question here for you. What happens after March 2024? Are there other programs coming?
Right, so at this time, we know that the deadline is obviously March 31st, 2024 for CES. And we're still, obviously open to looking for new opportunities, but at this time we have nothing concrete available to share. If you do sign up to our newsletter, that's a great way to, get updates for any future programming that might become available. And you can also keep an eye on our website as well for announcements.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Luca. So that's all the time we have for questions. If your question wasn't covered, or if you have more questions, please do email or call us. So you can find quite a lot of information already on the program website, which is eralberta.ca/ESB. You'll see that will bring you to a homepage with links to all the different streams that we have. So the ESB program, Comprehensive Energy Savings, Expanded Technology Pilot, and Small Producers Energy Efficiency Deployment. If you can't find what you're looking for, our contact center team is always happy to help. You can reach them by email, phone, or chat. These are our contact details right here. All of this is also on the website. Right.
Portia, I did have a note. Some people ask some very specific questions about their specific applications, such as what's eligible or what's going on with their application. So we're happy to answer those questions specifically. We do have a log of all the questions asked, and the team will go through them and work on responses. And then secondly, I believe some people have asked if we can email them the presentation. So I'm not sure if the presentation can be emailed, but I believe that the presentation will be posted on the website shortly.
Yeah, they'll all be on the resources page.
Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you very much for joining us. That's all the time we have, and we hope to see you at the next presentation.